Hello. Hello. Thank you all for being here today. I have the pleasure of introducing one of my own personal favorite speakers. Becky Laboy is a phenomenal speaker. If you haven't heard her speak, keep following. You will today, but always follow NPSNJ because oftentimes she'll come up. She's one of the chapter's most requested speakers, and I can say that because we've had her speak at the Hudson chapter. So now, Becky Laboy is a full-time education outreach specialist with Ocean County Soil Conservation District. She develops programs on topics related to soil conservation, native plants, eco-friendly gardening, and she's an adjunct professor here at Kean Universit as a soil science teacher. Becky also serves as the co-leader of the Jersey Shore chapter of the Native Plant Society. And without further ado, I'm going to let Becky take it. Thank you, Becky.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kim. Thank you so much, Randy. Thank you, Native Plant Society of New Jersey, for inviting me here today to speak. Kim, I think you just made my job this morning a little bit harder. You set a really high bar for me. I'll peel the curtain back a little bit. I prepared a brand new program for you. If you have seen some of my programs in the past, soil programs as well as plant programs, when I agreed to present today, certainly I didn't want to repeat anything that's already recorded and available for you to view on the Native Plant Society of New Jersey's website, where they house all their recorded programs from their many wonderful speakers. So this is a brand new program. You're my guinea pigs today, and I am actually going to be kind of zooming out a little bit for today's program about soil. As you can see, zooming out pretty far on the first slide. My program today is Soil, the Foundation of Life on Earth. And there is Earth, our beautiful planet, our only home in our vast universe. It's unique in its living systems, which are sustained by its water, air, and soil resources. And arguably, soil is the foundation for all life on Earth. I work for the Soil Conservation District. Of course, I'm going to argue for soil. However, 4.5 billion years ago, in our planet's infancy, there was no soil. The planet was in geological turmoil. Meteors were crashing down, and volcanoes were erupting, covering the planet with molten rock. As the planet cooled, tectonic plates shifted and collided, folded and lifted, creating mountainous rock structures. And over time, water vapor began to condense and freeze, and wind, water, and ice relentlessly weathered the rock, breaking it down back into its mineral components. The earliest evidence of life, dating back 3.5 billion years, are stromatolites, colonies of photosynthetic cyanobacteria. They formed in shallow freshwater pools, and single-celled organisms gave way to multicellular organisms, which expanded into the seas. And while evolution was taking place in Earth's oceans for millions of years, terrestrial life was absent. Stromatolites, however, produced large volumes of organic matter as they lived and died. And this organic matter mixed with minerals of eroding rock. Fungi and algae began to colonize the terrain. Over millions of years, interactions between these evolving life forms and their constantly changing rocky environment gave rise to the Earth's soils, laying the foundation for plants and terrestrial animals. Soil offered opportunities for life to expand and evolve. Plants developed roots in the soil, eventually giving rise to our forests and meadows and marshes and bogs and numerous other terrestrial ecosystems, each supporting a variety of unique plants and offering a new playground for evolution to create scores of organisms that continue to interact with, build, and change the soil. The outermost layer of the earth that is composed of soil is called the pedosphere. The pedosphere is where the worlds of rock, called the lithosphere, air, the atmosphere, and water, the hydrosphere, intersect and interact. And together these worlds are called the geosphere. And the geosphere intersects with the biosphere, which consists of living systems. The geosphere and the biosphere are the two main components of the Earth system. All parts of the Earth system interact and are interrelated through climate processes, through the water cycle, and through other biogeochemical cycles such as the carbon cycle, the nitrogen cycle, and the phosphorus cycle, just to name a few. And the sun is the dominant source of all external energy to the Earth system. The layers of our planet that lie between the tops of the tallest trees and the bottom of the groundwater aquifers that feed our rivers comprise what scientists term the critical zone. Environmental research is increasingly focused on this zone where active cycles and flows of materials and energy support life on Earth. And the soil plays a central role in this critical zone. The importance of soil derives in large part from its role as an interface between the worlds of rock, air, water, and living things. Environments where all four of these worlds interact are often the most complex and productive on Earth. Soil is a non-renewable, dynamic natural resource, and it's essential to all life. Water movement and water quality, land use, vegetation, productivity, biodiversity all depend on soil. So for the next hour or so, we're going to dig a little deeper into soil, and we're going to explore some of the complexities of soil, specifically focusing on a few key topics. Soil composition. We will define the basic components of soil. Soil formation. We will look at and discuss the soil forming factors and processes. And we will be delving into soil taxonomy and look at how scientists identify and organize and make sense of different types of soil. And we will examine some soil properties and characteristics and think about why soils behave the way they do. Do you think we can cover all this in an hour? Let's see. Soil is a dynamic resource. It consists of unique mineral compositions. It's mixed with air and water and organic matter. In a soil sample, on average, just under half the soil, about 47% or so, consists of mineral particles, and about half the soil consists of pore space filled with air and water, and a very small percentage of the soil consists of organic matter. The organic matter can consist of living or dead vegetation and organisms, fresh, decomposing, or completely decayed. Completely decayed organic matter is termed humus. The mineral component is made up of mineral particles, categorized according to the size of the individual particle, which determines the overall soil texture. Soil texture refers to the percentage of sand, silt, and clay within the soil. Sand is the largest particle, and clay is the smallest. The size of the soil particle relates to its surface area, and the surface area affects the size of the pore spaces between the individual particles. And this determines the amount of air and water the soil can hold. This can affect things like drainage, aeration, erosion potential. The soil particle size can also affect the amount of nutrients that can be stored in the soil, as well as the types of organisms that can live in that soil, which can then affect the breakdown of organic matter, which can affect the soil's pH, water holding capacity, and nutrient availability. Soil texture can tell you a lot about the soil in your garden. There are actually 12 different soil texture types as shown on the soil texture pyramid. And the name of each type describes the soil based on the composition of sand, silt, and clay. For example, the sandy soils are in the bottom left of the pyramid, the clays are in the top, and the silty soils are on the right. And a loam, the texture type in the center of the pyramid, contains a mixture of sand, silt, and clay with somewhere between 25 and 55% sand, and between 10 to 25% clay, and between 25 and 50% silt. So it really just depends on the soil. Soil texture is just one property of soils, but an important one to know. There is a tremendous diversity of soils around the world, each consisting of a unique combination of minerals, air, water, and organic matter, and each supporting a diverse mix of living organisms. So let's dig a little deeper into how soils are formed. Scientists have determined that soil formation is controlled by 5 major physical, chemical, and biological processes, best remembered using the acronym CLORPT. The CL is for climate. The O is for organisms. The R is for relief and topography. The P is for parent material. And the T is for time. And together, these 5 factors create a diversity of soil types around the world. And this character here, showcasing those 5 soil factors, soil forming factors, is named SK Worm. So SK stands for soil knowledge, and SK Worm, SQUIRM for short, is the official annelid of the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Natural Resources Conservation Service to help educate folks about soil. So let's take a closer look at these soil forming factors. Climate. Climate is generally considered the most important single factor in soil formation and tends to dominate the soil forming process and to a large extent controls the vegetation. Weathering, which includes precipitation and temperature, takes place when environmental processes such as rainfall, freezing, and thawing that acts on rocks, causing them to dissolve or fracture and break into their mineral ingredients. Climate also influences the decomposition rate of dead plants and animals, and minerals and organic matter then combine to form soils. Organisms, big and small, affect and are affected by the formation of soil. In the soil, plant roots grow and spread out. Animals tunnel and burrow, and bacteria busily decompose plant and animal tissue. These and other soil organisms help break down large soil particles into smaller ones. Soil organisms influence the formation and differentiation of soil layers called horizons. Plants determine the kinds and amounts of organic matter that are added to soil. Animals break down complex chemical compounds and in so doing add nutrients to the soil. So many organisms interact with the soil directly or indirectly, from microscopic single-celled organisms to fungi worms, plants, birds, butterflies, humans, and beyond. I would argue they all do. Relief and topography refer to the slope, the aspect, meaning the compass direction, and the landform position, so exposure of land to the sun and to the elements. It describes the shape of a land, including hills and valleys, and the direction it faces, which makes a difference in how much sunlight the soil gets, how much water it receives, how much water it retains and drains. For example, deeper soils form at the bottom of the hill rather than at the top because gravity and water move soil particles downward. Parent material is rock that breaks down into its mineral components when weathered, and the mineral components may remain at their original site, or they may be transported and deposited elsewhere by glaciers and wind and water or gravity. Just like people inherit characteristics from their parents, soil inherits some traits from the material from which it was formed. These are called inherent soil qualities. They can include things like soil texture, meaning the percentage of sand, silt, and clay a soil is composed of, as well as depth to the soil, to the underlying bedrock. And parent material is based on geology. And this map shows the different geological formations in New Jersey, revealing the parent material in each area. And knowing the geology of our state will help with our understanding of soils. The state of New Jersey has a very complex geology made up of numerous geological formations, as you can see. And these formations lie in 4 different regions, or what we call physiographic provinces: valley and ridge in the north, the highlands, the Piedmont, and coastal plains in the south. And you can see how the provinces in the map to the right generally overlap the different geological formations on the map to the left. North Jersey consists of very old igneous and metamorphic rock formations manufactured through various geological processes. And South Jersey consists of relatively new sediment, which ranges in age from the Cretaceous period to the Holocene, which falls between 135 million years ago to the present. Sediment consisting of quartzite, sand, clay, marl, and gravel were deposited as the ocean underwent transgression, and regression. So rising and falling, and that continues today. All of these soil forming factors, climate, organisms, relief and topography, and parent material, they act together over a very long period of time to produce thousands of different kinds of soil of various ages. So generally speaking, older soils have more well-defined horizons or layers than younger soils. The process of soil formation is known as pedogenesis, from the Greek word pedon, meaning soil or earth, and from the Latin word genesis, meaning to be born. And over time, soils continue to develop and go through changes brought about by 4 basic soil forming processes, different from factors. So these are the processes. Additions include any materials being deposited on the soil, such as leaf litter, decomposing plant roots in the soil, dead and decomposing animals, also minerals from flooding, landslides, and other geologic events, and atmospheric dust and rainfall are also additions to soil. Losses include nutrients lost to plants when they take them up in their roots, and then the plants are harvested either by people or browsed by herbivores, or the plant is otherwise removed from the soil. Water is lost when it evaporates from the soil or through transpiration when plants take water up from their roots and it evaporates from their leaves. Erosion is a form of soil loss. Erosion can happen by wind, water, and ice, and landslides can also remove soil. Translocations involve the movement of materials from one location in the soil to another location in the soil. And this movement can be divided into illuviation and eluviation. And illuviation is when material moves into a zone, and eluviation is when a material is removed or exits from a zone. Highly soluble minerals such as gypsum and carbonates, such as lime, can dissolve in water that is within the soil, then move to wherever water moves within the soil. In addition, animals, for example, ants, can translocate mineral particles, moving them from one location to another in the soil. And earthworms can translocate organic matter in the soil profile. And transformation refers to a material changing from one form to another within the soil. For example, leaf litter added to the soil eventually decomposes. And this decomposition is a transformation process. Rocks weathering into their mineral components is a transformation process. Compacted soil is a transformation process. Compaction makes it harder for roots to penetrate the soil, and air and water cannot move easily through the soil. Pedology is the study of soil as a geologic entity. Scientists who study soils as natural bodies, including their origin, how it was formed, its geography, where in the world it is found, its taxonomy, how the soil is classified, its morphology, including its mineral and material composition, and the properties of its horizons, as well as the relationships among soils within a landscape. Those scientists are called pedologists. Edaphology is the study of the nature of soils as habitat with respect to its impact on living things, especially plants, including humans' use of land for plant growth. And edaphologists work closely with foresters and agronomists and ecologists and botanists. New Jersey has several amazing soil scientists that help advance soil science research, as well as educate the public about the importance of soil. Edwin Muniz is pictured left, and he is New Jersey's state soil scientist. And here he is standing with a group of Kean University students enrolled in my soil science class right here on the Kean Ocean campus. And as a guest presenter, Edwin introduced the students to several pieces of equipment he uses out in the field, including this ground-penetrating radar. And this machine helps to kind of see underground. So in an archaeological context, the radar can indicate an area of disturbance or an artifact buried in the soil. Edwin provides free technical assistance to community gardens in New Jersey. And his soil assessment service can help you evaluate conditions in your community garden to determine your soil's health and your success with your garden. And this is Fred Schoenagel III, and he is a resource soil scientist with the USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service. Fred helps to identify, inventory, and map the soils of New Jersey. And with his colorful displays of soils from around the state, he educates adults and students and communities and me about the complexities of soil, and soil is complex. Fred helps people better understand our area soils and appreciate the important role they play in our ecology and in our society. And here's Dr. Stephanie Murphy. She's the director of the Rutgers Soil Testing Lab. Her lab analyzes soil samples to determine the soil health and fertility pH, organic matter content, soil biology, and many other tests. And Dr. Murphy also teaches soil science at Rutgers University. And here's me. I am a soil enthusiast. I am not a soil scientist. I have a bachelor's degree in biology and a master's degree in education. And I am the education outreach specialist with Ocean County Soil Conservation District. And it is my job to learn all I can about soil, and there's a lot to know about soil, and to digest that very complex information and to share it with the community, and to promote an appreciation of soil as one of our most important natural resources. And over the past 9 years or so that I've been working at the Soil District, I've had the great pleasure of learning from our New Jersey soil scientists, both in the classroom and in the field. Over the past 100 years or so, soil science is a fairly new science. Soil scientists have dug deeper into the complexities of soil to learn more about its life-sustaining properties and processes. To do this, what better way? Soil scientists often dig a large hole called a soil pit. It's several meters deep and about a meter wide, and it exposes the vertical section in the wall of the pit termed the soil profile. Within the profile are layers called horizons. The horizon layers typically have different colors, and their physical and chemical and biological properties are different among the layers above and below. The horizons may vary in thickness, they may have a somewhat irregular boundary, but generally speaking, they parallel the land surface. And this alignment is expected since each layer is largely the result of influences such as air, water, and plant material originating at the soil atmosphere interface. Each layer is defined. The top layer, or the O horizon, is the organic layer containing humus. Humus is the dark organic material that forms in soil when plant and animal matter decays. The O horizon is thin in some soils, it's thick in others, and sometimes it's non-existent. The A horizon is the topsoil, which contains an accumulation of both humus and minerals. Some soils have an E horizon called the illuviation layer, which contains leached minerals and leached organic matter that percolated down from the topsoil. The B horizon is the subsoil containing mostly minerals, and the minerals were either washed down from layers above or they formed in place due to weathering. Below the B horizon is the C horizon, which is the parent material, containing mostly weathered rock. And below the C horizon is the R horizon, the unweathered bedrock. In some soil profiles, the component horizons are very distinct in color with really sharp boundaries that can be easily seen by even novice observers like myself. In other soils, the changes in color between horizons may be very gradual and the boundaries more difficult to locate. And color is only one of the properties by which one horizon may be distinguished from the horizon above or below it. Studying soils and soil horizons in the field, it's quite a sensory activity, and it requires all of the senses to delineate the horizons present. In addition to seeing the colors in a profile, a soil scientist may feel and smell the soil, as well as conduct other tests in order to distinguish the horizons. And it's important for soil scientists to understand and communicate their knowledge of soil with each other, just as scientists and us need to communicate our knowledge about the hundreds of thousands of different plants in the world. So a soil taxonomy was created to characterize soils based on either measured or observed physical, chemical, and biological properties. And those include moisture and temperature regimes, color, texture, structure, mineral composition, the soil depth, and many other characteristics. And so scientists use soil taxonomy for making and interpreting what's called soil surveys, which are maps of where different soils exist. And this is important because different soils are well suited or poorly suited for different types of human land use, as we know it from being gardeners. Humans use land for farming. Soil supports building structures and roads, and soil stores and channels water and myriad other uses. Soil taxonomy is similar to the Linnaean taxonomic classification system of living organisms with which you may be familiar. That includes the domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. And in soil, there are 12 orders, 68 suborders, 444 great groups, 2,500 subgroups, more or less, 8,000 family groups, and 25,000 soil series in the United States. So I'm going to focus for now on the 12 soil orders. And these are, ready for this? Entosols, inceptosols, vertisols, mollisols, alphasols, iridosols, spodosols, ultisols, oxasols, histosols, andosols, and gelisols. Each name ends in sol, which means soil. And just as the Latin names of plants sound like Latin, right? The Latin names of plants hold meaning that describe certain characters of the plant. The 12 soil orders also describe a major characteristic of that particular soil group. So there is some sense to this organization chart here. And each of the 12 soil orders is found in a specific environment related to and affected by those 5 soil forming factors: climate, organisms, specifically local vegetation, relief and topography, parent material, and time that the soil has been developing. The soil orders are differentiated by the presence or absence of specific types of soil horizons, affected by the different soil forming processes, those 4 processes, including the leaching or downward movement of different minerals into the lower layers, and the amount of decomposed organic matter or other physical, chemical, or biological properties. Like a map showing different biomes of the world, this map shows the locations of the 12 soil orders. And in the key to the right, it also points out the rocky land, the shifting sands, and the ice and glaciers, which are not considered soils. So we're going to dig a little deeper into these 12 soil orders as grouped by similar traits. 3 orders have unique parent materials. 3 are found in unique environments on Earth. 3 are grouped by the age of their development, and 3 by their unique vegetative influence. So first, the 3 orders containing unique parent materials: andosols, histosols, and vertisols. So andosols, from the Japanese word ando, meaning black soil. They typically form from the weathering of volcanic ash, and the volcanic ash cools rapidly on the land surface, forming poorly structured glass-like clay particles. And these minerals have an unusually high capacity to hold both nutrients and water, making these soils very productive and fertile. Andosols typically occur in areas with moderate to high rainfall and cool temperatures. Andosols support mountain forests. They can accumulate large quantities of organic carbon content. And if they're on steep slopes, the andosols can actually erode pretty quickly. Where temperature and moisture are compatible with human food crops, many of these soils have been found to be highly desirable sites for humans to sustainably grow food crops and support dense human populations, such as in Japan, Central America, and the Rift Valley in Africa. And these soils make up only about 1% of the glacier-free land surface on Earth. Just looking at my time, and how long does my time go to? Okay, great, thank you. So histosols, that word comes from the Greek histos, meaning tissue, referring to plant tissue. Histosols are predominantly composed of highly acidic, partially to completely decomposed organic material in their upper portion. They commonly occur in swamps and tidal marshes and bogs and fens and moors and peatlands where the soils are saturated year-round. They form when organic matter, such as leaves and mosses or grasses, decompose much more slowly than they accumulate. Histosols can be highly productive farmland when they're drained. However, when they're drained, they decompose rapidly and they subside dramatically, meaning the land actually sinks down. And consequently, they're not stable for buildings and roadways, and they make up about 1% of the world's glacier-free land surface. Vertisols, from the Latin verto, meaning turn. They're clay-rich soils. They contain a type of expansive clay that dramatically shrinks and swells when it's wet and dry. When it's wet, and then when they're dry, they actually form those really large cracks. They can be really deep, several centimeters wide. And the movement of these soils can actually crack a building foundation, and they can buckle roads if a road is built on top of them. Vertisols are highly fertile due to their high clay content. However, water tends to pool on their surface when they become wet, and they occupy about 2% of the Earth's surface. So there's 3 orders that are formed in unique environments, which include artisols, gelisols, and oxisols. The artisols, from the Latin artis, meaning dry, they occur in climates that are very dry. That dry climate actually restricts soil weathering processes, meaning rainwater and other erosive weathering forces. They're not acting upon the soil. And they're found in hot and cold deserts in the world. And they actually occupy about 12% of the land area. Gelisols, from the Latin gelare, meaning to freeze. Those are soils that contain a permanently frozen horizon called permafrost. And they are found in places like Siberia, Alaska, and Canada, or at extremely high elevations. And the permafrost influences land use through its limiting effect on the downward movement of water and the freeze-thaw activity, such as when there's frost heaves. The permafrost also restricts the rooting depth of plants, and they make up about 9% of the glacier-free land surface. I think they're really beautiful soils myself. Oxisols, from the French word oxide, referring to the high content of iron and aluminum oxide. They're highly weathered. They have that beautiful dark red color. They are almost featureless soils without clear horizons, and they're found in tropical and subtropical regions. They have low natural fertility, and they're highly weathered. They're found on about 8% of our land surface. And then some orders grouped by age of soil development: the entasols, inceptisols, and altisols. The entasols, from the word recent origin or new, that ENT, new. They exhibit little to no soil development other than the presence of an identifiable topsoil horizon. And they occur in areas of recently deposited sediment. Some landforms where entasols are located include active floodplains, dunes, landslide areas, and behind retreating glaciers. And they occupy about 16% of the Earth's surface. And this beautiful map, as well as a little area of New Jersey. And so this beautiful map here shows the location of, there's actually 5 soil orders that are found in our small state. And the entasols are found in those turquoise blue areas, mostly in South Jersey. The inceptisols, they're from the Latin word inceptum, meaning beginning, and they exhibit a minimal to moderate degree of soil development. They occurred over a wide range of parent materials and exhibit a wide range of characteristics. And they're pretty extensive. They occupy about 17% of the Earth's surface, including New Jersey. And here they are in New Jersey. Inceptisols are found in the light red colored areas, predominantly in North Jersey. The ultisols, from the Latin word ultimus, meaning last, they are soils that have formed in humid areas and are intensely weathered. They typically contain a subsoil horizon that has a large accumulation of translocated clay, and they're relatively acidic. Most nutrients are held in the upper few centimeters, and the soils are generally unfertile or low in fertility. They make up about 8% of our land surface, and that little map in the upper right corner shows where they occur in the United States, which includes New Jersey. And here's the map of New Jersey, and the ultisols are actually colored orange, so they are predominantly found in South Jersey. And then the last three orders we will look at developed under unique vegetative ecosystems, the althasols, mollisols, and spodosols. And the althasols, from the soil science term pedalfer, which refers to the aluminum and iron content, they have a small A horizon and an accumulation of clay in their B horizon. They are similar to the ultisols, but they're less intensively weathered and they're a little less acidic. And they are located in similar climatic regions as ultisols, but they tend to be more inherently fertile, containing good levels of plant nutrients. And they typically develop under forest vegetation, and they occupy about 10% of our land. And it's difficult to see on that little map there, but althasols are also found in northern New Jersey. And here they are, they're actually colored green, so they're found in the northern and western areas of New Jersey. And mollisols, they're prairie or grassland soils. You can see they have a very thick, dark-colored A horizon. They're highly fertile. They're rich in plant nutrients. And the dark surface horizon comes from the annual addition of organic matter to the soil from the roots of the prairie plants. And they are found in climates with pronounced dry seasons, and they make up about 7% of the glacier-free land space, and they're not found in New Jersey. And then finally, the spodosols. And in my personal opinion, I think they're the most attractive soils. They often have a dark surface underlain by an ashy gray layer, which is underlain by a reddish, rusty, coffee-colored or black subsoil horizon. And these soils form as rainfall interacts with acidic vegetative litter, such as the needles of conifers, to form organic acids. And these acids dissolve iron, aluminum, and organic matter in the topsoil and in the ashy gray horizons. And the dissolved materials then move to the colorful subsoil horizons. The spodosols often develop in coarsely textured soils, so including sands and loamy sands. Under coniferous vegetation in humid regions of the world, they tend to be very acidic, have low fertility and low clay content, and they occupy about 4% of our land surface. And as the map shows, they can be found in South Jersey. And here's the map. So the light pink color dotting the Pine Barrens region in South Jersey. That's where the spodosols are found. So you were just introduced to the 12 soil orders. There'll be a test later. The broadest category in soil taxonomy, and that's the soil orders. So they are akin to either the domain or kingdom in the plant taxonomy. And then the next three categories, the suborders, the great groups, and the subgroups, they're all separated and differentiated by different characteristics, including moisture levels and temperature ranges. And then the families are differentiated by properties important to plant root growth and mineral composition and soil texture. And those groupings might be akin to perhaps the phylum, class, order, and family in plant taxonomy. And then that last and largest group, the one with the most units, the 25,000, those are the soil series. And soils are communicated by soil scientists at the soil series grouping, where an individual unit called a soil series can be addressed. So the different soil series, they're differentiated by the arrangement of their horizons, the color, the texture, the mineral composition, and their chemical properties. So the species taxa is how we typically discuss plants, where we can address and communicate about an individual plant. And soil scientists communicate using soil series. So now I'm going to introduce you to the 25,000 soil series. Just kidding. They can actually be defined by characteristics within the horizon. The pedon is the smallest volume of soil that displays that full range of characteristics. If they're grouped together, they're known as a polypedon, and then several polypedons are considered the soil series. And there's about 195 named soil series in New Jersey. This map shows 16 of them. A couple names are Delaware, Nassau, Rockaway, Parsippany. So what do all those names have in common? They're names of places. So perhaps you live in one of these areas. A soil series name is generally derived from a town or landmark near the area where the soil series was first recognized. And just like New Jersey has a state flower, the violet, a state tree, the red oak, we have a state bird, the American goldfinch, and so on and so on, we also have a state soil. Does anybody know what the state soil is? It's called downer. So downer soil, it's in the taxonomic order Altisols, so that large swath of orange. In particular, it's found in the pine barrens of the coastal plain. And since it was first identified in 1955, 11 of 21 counties in New Jersey are found to have downer soil. It actually covers almost 300,000 acres of land in New Jersey. So it's the most extensive soil found in the pine barrens. It's deep, it's well drained, it's developed from acidic loamy coastal plain sediments. And recall that the characteristics of soils, including downer soil, are determined by the influence of chlort. So climate, specifically temperature and precipitation, influence the rate at which parent materials weather and dead plants and animals decompose. Well, the downer soil developed under our humid climate with mild temperatures and abundant rainfall. And I'm going to kind of speed through the rest of my information here, not too much to go. Recall organisms, plants and animals influence the formation and differentiation of those soil horizons, right? So the plants determine the kinds and amounts of organic matter that are added to a soil, and animals live in and around the soil. They help break down that organic matter. And downer developed under hardwood or pine forests, which deposit those leaves and twigs and roots and other plants that remain on the soil surface. They do readily degrade and they leach through that sandy soil, and so downer soils have very little accumulation of the organic matter. And the relief of the land. Downer soils are well drained because they're formed on the higher positions of landscapes, specifically in high areas between river channels and on tops of low hills or on ridges with slopes, usually ranging about 5% slope. And the parent material, Downers developed from materials that were transported by water bodies such as rivers and marine deposits. And time allows soils to develop the horizons and their characteristics. And downer soil was formed in areas where, as I mentioned, the rivers and ocean once covered the entire northern Atlantic coastal plain. Originally, the land area had developed from older rock formations before those coastal sands were deposited over top of it. And as those coastal deposits weathered and plants, animals, and microorganisms began to add that organic matter to the top layer over thousands of years, the downer soil was developed. And as I mentioned, downer is in the order Ultisol, so that's the orange area on our map. And most of our downer soils underlay the woodlands consisting of mixed oaks, including chestnut, blackjack, white oak, black oak, scarlet oak, post oak, as well as hickory, and pines, including pitch pines, shortleaf pines, and Virginia pines, and then blueberry and bracken fern provide the shrub layer under the trees. And when a soil cannot be used for certain human factors, that is referred to as a limitation. And downer soil has moderate limitations in the types of plants that can be grown due to its acidity and its very porous, well-draining character. And drought can be a problem, so if you have downer soil in your yard, if you live in South Jersey, you just might. Looking to native plants for your home garden and landscape is the most practical and beneficial choice. And the Ocean County Soil Conservation District is a proud partner with the Barnegat Bay Partnership in the Jersey Friendly Yards Initiative. We actually have a table out in the lobby. And the Jersey Friendly Yards website is an excellent source to find native plants for downer soil or for any soil you have in your yard. So you will just go to the Jersey Friendly Plants tab, and in the drop-down menu, select Jersey Friendly Plant Database. And then once you're on the Jersey Friendly Yards Plant Database page, you're going to scroll down to the Search for Plants section. And on the left are the search filters. And here you can search our database of over 400 different plant species for just the right plant to match the specific soil conditions in your yard. And scroll down to find the soil filters, in particular, the soil type, the pH, the soil moisture, as well as drought tolerance are all relevant. Choose your soil type, choose your soil pH, choose your soil moisture, and choose your plant drought tolerance. And you can select for native plants only if you want. And choose your plant type. For example, flowering perennials. And then you can click on the species to read more about it and scroll through the plant details and view the photos and read more about the plant. So if you have any questions about the Jersey Friendly Yards website, Karen Walzer, she is a co-leader of the Jersey Shore chapter of the Native Plant Society of New Jersey. She is also the public outreach coordinator for Barnegat Bay Partnership, and she's over there. Hello, Karen. And she's the Jersey Friendly Yards coordinator, and she's here today if you have any questions about the Jersey Friendly Yards website. So in conclusion, as spring approaches and the weather begins to warm up and you find yourself outside in your garden, my hope is that you will take a peek into your soil and dig a little deeper and learn a little bit about your soil's texture, perhaps learn a little bit about the parent material, maybe learn about the taxonomy, what kind of soil is under your feet, and send Rutgers a soil sample. I have a couple samples in the lab right now being tested. You can find out more about your soil's pH, your soil's texture, your organic matter level, the biology in your soil. And really what I want you to do, your takeaway for today, is to think a little bit more about soil as you're traversing our planet, because soil really is the foundation of all life on Earth. The end. And here's my contact information, please don't hesitate to reach out once your mind settles a little bit from all that soil information. You can contact me at education@soildistrict.org. I'd be happy to chat. And I'd be happy to answer any questions later if I'm unable to do it now, because now's the scary part for questions, right?
It is.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a couple of mic runners that are going to take questions from the floor, and we'll also be hosting some questions from the room. Raise your hand if you have a question.
I know that there is a website, a New Jersey website, where you can put your address in, and it tells you what percentage of different soils you have, but I can't remember what it is, and it might be useful to people here.
Thank you so much. That's an excellent question. So the question was, there's a website that exists where you can actually find out a lot of information about your own soil. You can actually pinpoint your address. You can zoom into it. You'll get a whole list of data about your soil just by going to the Web Soil Survey. Thank you for that excellent question. That's my next presentation about the Web Soil Survey. Thank you. Great resource.
Coming.
And thank you for your interest in soil. I've either captured you or I've completely, no.
I was wondering, how deep does the soil pit need to be to determine the order of soil that you have? And I was wondering if two different soil orders can exist within close proximity of each other, like on the same acre or something.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And the rule is for a pet-on, in the pet-on, you have to, is the hole you're going to, the initial hole you're going to dig to take a look at the soil, you're capturing a pet-on, and you need to have all the layers available to be able to identify the soil, to look at the soil profile and identify the soil type. I believe the soil pits that they dig, I wrote down the number for some reason, 6 meters is coming to mind, although that's quite big.
Yeah, that's
Probably, I would say 3 feet deep would be a good guess. Maybe to get in there, maybe about 6 feet long. I don't recommend you do it yourself with a shovel. The pit that you saw, Fred's wonderful machine he has on the back of his truck actually helps to dig those pits, although I have seen him with a shovel. But, and yes, your soil, can 2 different soil types be in close proximity to each other? Yes, they can. And as you saw on the map, a lot of different soils within the Pine Barrens region. Not only Downer is there, but there's lots of other ones. So could it be in your own yard? I suppose there's a chance. Certainly you could have 2 different types in your yard if you're on the border of those 2 different types of soil. But yeah, it's kind of like a micro climate for plants within your yard or within your community. You might have a little bit different conditions in your yard than your neighbor, depending on structures that are there, depending on the water, the types of vegetation, slight slopes. You know, it's got to start and end somewhere. That could all have an effect on the types of soil that were developed in your particular area.
And then due to man-made changes, can we change the order of soil that we have?
I don't think you can change the order of your soil. Sand, silt, and clay are an inherent property. Your soil texture is an inherent property that comes from parent material. So I get a lot of complaints about sandy soil. I have sandy soil in my backyard. How can I change it? You can add organic matter, but you're not really going to change the inherent texture of your soil. You can dump a lot of money into it and try to, buy different types of soil to add. That's very, very expensive, but you're going to have a hard time changing the actual soil order in your yard.
Thank you, Becky.
Just live with it, embrace it, love it, and plant the plants that want to live there. Yeah. Thank you for that question.
We got a new one. Can you hear me back?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Becky, we have a question. Sorry about that. Are you familiar with the Soil Series website? And if so, there's amazing fine grain detail, and are soils sampled all over?
A website called Soil Series. I'm not familiar. I may have Googled it while researching this presentation. I can offer you actually another website that I came across, soilscience.org. It is actually an open source website. That's where I got all these amazing photos. Colby Diggs is a soil science teacher. That's his kind of nickname, Colby Diggs. And he and his colleagues have uploaded hundreds of thousands of photos to that website through their Flickr account, and they're open source because it's really hard to come across photos of soils unless you're out there digging and taking pictures yourself, which I do, but I don't have enough for this particular program in my collection. So that's one website that you can visit. And then I have to plug the Ocean County Soil Conservation District. Soildistrict.org is our website. And we have lots and lots of information about soil resources, and we're continuously building our website soil resources pages as well. I didn't really answer that question, but that's my response. Thank you. All right, one more scary question.
Are there ways of testing how much Roundup is in your soil?
Oh, good question. I would refer you to Edwin Muniz. He's the New Jersey soil scientist, and although he doesn't do house calls, he can offer information about chemicals. I know when he goes to community gardens, he takes all of his amazing equipment and he can test for different heavy metals or other types of things that might be in a soil where a community garden might want to plant edible plants or native plants, or just to kind of determine the health of their soil before they actually start digging into it. And then I'll also refer you to Dr. Stephanie Murphy at the Rutgers Soil Testing Lab. There's great folks over there that are very knowledgeable that might have another resource for you about testing for Roundup or other chemicals. Good question.
My question is about peat. I'm over here, sorry.
Okay.
Peat and extracting peat from the soil and using it. Are you pro peat or against peat?
I don't have a position on peat. Well, personally, I guess I have a position on peat. That was quite a photo, right? That was shown, and that photo was in Ireland, and they had cut up all the peat, and they were taking it out of the ground and selling it, I guess. It's a peat farm. Certainly, that could be a whole program in and of itself, because all that organic matter that is now being disturbed is going to add carbon to the atmosphere. And we want to keep all that carbon in the soil. That's why we don't want to disturb our soil as much as we possibly can. That's why farmers are going no-till farming. We do want to keep all that carbon, that organic matter made of carbon molecules, including peat, in the soil. So that's a really good question. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try to sneak in two questions.
Okay.
Just because the Roundup question made me think, is there a place where you could find information about plants that might help remediate heavy metals from soil? I personally live in a place where they put creosote-soaked railroad ties in the yard, so I'm concerned about the heavy metals in the yard. And then I also wanted to know if there's any way to start reporting jumping worms, which also affect soil, because I noticed that I could only report them in New York, but not in New Jersey. So I don't know if there's any studies being done about their effect on New Jersey. Thank you.
Yeah, two really, really interesting questions that I don't have answers for, but I'll just comment on them. Yeah, that's a fascinating area of research, is what plants pull up chemicals or toxic chemicals. It's a really important question. As humans, we're now at 8 billion and growing, and many things that we're kind of dumping intentionally or not on our soils, and how we can remediate brownfields and even just our yards. That's a great question. So I don't know if there's a website for looking up specific plants that can help remediate soils. I'm sure this vast audience of knowledgeable folks may be able to help you with that. And then the second question was, tell me, jumping worms. Oh, I was actually just watching a video about earthworms in, might have been Minnesota, somewhere like that. Just, you know, our earthworms we love in our gardens, but they eat the organic matter and they bring it into the soil. So translocation and transformation, and kind of churn the organic matter and the minerals. And we might think, oh, that's a great thing in our gardens, but in a native forest, that habitat, those plants actually rely on that nice layer of insulation, that leaf litter, but it's being chopped up by those invasive worms, and completely changing the ecology of native forests, native habitat. That doesn't answer your question. Where can you report jumping worms? I would say the DEP, New Jersey DEP, would be the first place I would look. I know they do have invasive species teams that address things like spotted lanternfly, and perhaps they can also address jumping worms. That's the best I can do for that answer. One more question? Thank you, Lisa.
Your soil pyramid, for lack of a better way of putting it. So when I see like Pemberton, Evesboro, Sassafras, Tinton within that web soil survey, where's that in the pyramid? Those kinds of names.
So the soil pyramids, the only way I know how to do it is just back up here. Is it actually displays the 12. Did I just pass it? Did somebody say I passed it? Oh, I see it. I see it. How do I get there? Okay. Is it there? Yeah. So basically, that displays the 12 different soil types as identified by soil scientists, USDA, and folks. And basically, you would need to get a soil test done, or you can do it yourself at home with what's called a jar test by putting a soil sample in a jar, adding water, shaking, let it settle for about 2 days. The sand is heavy, going to sink to the bottom, then the silt, then the clay. Measure the layers, get a total of what soil you have, measure the layers. Let's say sand is 80%, or let's say you have to here's a whole lesson. Let's say you have 10 centimeters of sand. You take that number, put it over the total amount of soil in the jar, and then multiply by 100 to get the percentage. Do that with silt and clay. Once you have those percentages, you can pop them into this soil texture triangle, and you can determine if you have sandy loam or clay or silty clay. I actually just did a program on this for, I think it was the Bergen Passaic chapter, and explained how to do this. So that video is recorded and on the NPSNJ website. So I think I'm answering your question in that, how do you use the soil texture triangle? How does it relate to different soils in your yard? Is that? And the name of okay, so those are all soil series names. So Downer, Rockaway, those are names of soil series. Mm-hmm. And then all those soil series have different soil textures. So they have different compositions of sand, silt, and clay. So Downer happens to have a loamy sand. It's a loamy sand. So it has probably between 70, 80, 90% sand and a little bit of silt and clay mixed in. Whereas if you're sampling maybe a freehold soil or a rockaway soil, the composition of those soils might have a lot more clay or a lot more silt. So based on the percentage of sand, silt, and clay in those soil series, you might have a clay loam or a silty clay or something else. Is that okay? Thumbs up. Oh, good. I can't see. Okay.
Becky, a Zoom question.
Okay.
A few advocates of native plants have advocated for using Roundup to kill lawn as step one of prep for creating a meadow. Is that a terrible idea from a long-term soil health standpoint?
Can I say it depends? It depends on who's doing it. They need to be licensed, and it depends if they're a professional, and it depends on how they're applying it. If you have an area with mass amounts of invasive species, and you can do so much mechanically by pulling things out, but the roots of English ivy are so prolific and so tenacious that if you cut them, no matter what you do to them, they're going to come back. If you have a professional that kind of dabs on the chemical into the cut stem or root and kind of penetrates and kills it that way, that might be your only way to do it. But just dousing it with Roundup or other chemicals might not be such a good way to do that. So as long as it's done with as much knowledge as possible, a professional who knows what they're doing, and sometimes, not that I promote chemical use at all, try mechanical first, and if not, then you may just have to kind of start over with small doses of chemical that are just enough to get done what you need to do. So not supporting it, but not only when necessary. How about that?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.